I hate to admit this, but I'm getting along in years, and even I get tired of pulling on a rope to start my mower. Hopefully it'll start, and with a couple of pulls, most times it does. But when trying to fix a mower with electric start, I try my best to get it working again despite what most people tell me about it. They'll say it's not worth it to not bother with it, you'll never get your money back repairing it. Well, today we're going to find out if that's true. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this Craftsman lawnmower, and the problem is that we need to get it ready for sale, which means we need to finish the last couple of details on this mower. Now, we can't fix everything about it, but as long as it's working the best it can, I'll be happy with how this project turned out. Now, I'm going to try and repair this lawnmower, but yours might be different, so this might not work on yours. So if things are not working out for you, like in the video, please ask about it, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. Now, before we get too far into this project, we need to document all of the important stickers and information we find on this mower. That way, if and when we need to buy parts for either the engine or the mower itself, we'll have all the information we need to get the right parts. I know that this part of the video looks like nothing but beauty shots, but in actuality, it's a lot more important than that. Now, if you're not sure about what part you need for your project, try reaching out to a small engine repair shop and have them order the part for you. Just be ready to take pictures of all the stickers you can find, and that'll help them make sure they're ordering the right parts for you as well. Also, when checking the oil level and condition, be sure to wipe the dipstick clean first, that way you'll get an accurate reading. Now, if you recall, the oil that's in the engine right now is the same one that it came with when we found it. And even though it doesn't look terrible, as usual, we need to change the oil because that's how I advertise them for sale. Now, the last thing we need to do before we start the engine to get the oil hot and ready for an oil change is to, of course, put some fresh 100% gasoline in the fuel tank. If you can't get 100% gasoline in your area, try using a good fuel additive to help out. I did get a great comment the other day asking about which additive I'd like to use, and to be honest, it really doesn't matter which one you choose. The only thing that does matter is that you try and add something to deal with the ethanol that's in the gasoline. Ethanol-enriched gasoline works great in small engines, however they're not so great on the rubber components in your fuel system. It won't destroy it the first time you use it, but over time, and especially if you let it sit in the fuel system for a long time, that's when the problems will start to appear. Now, if you've seen some of my older repair videos, you might have noticed that I have done some cold oil changes before, but it's highly recommended that you change it when the engine is hot. The reason why is because when the oil is hot, it flows a lot better, and that'll help to flush out all the contaminants at the bottom of the engine. And as you can see, once out of the engine, the oil doesn't look as good as it did when we checked it earlier. Now, before I sharpen the blade, I'm going to see if it's close to being balanced, and if not, I can try to balance it during the sharpening process. Now, to do that, I'm going to use a very affordable balancing tool I got online, and even though it looks like a metal Christmas tree, it does a much better job than using a nail in the wall. Now, the interesting part was that it was extremely close to being balanced before I sharpened it. That means I just need to make consistent passes on the blade to keep it that way. Now, there's nothing wrong with using a nail in the wall to help balance your blade. I use that for a long time too, but I find this tool to be just a bit better. Now, it can be a little tough to use sometimes when it barely catches on the edges of the cone, but with practice, you'll get the hang of it. Now, when installing the blade, do your best to put it on the correct way, otherwise the dull edge of the blade will be the one pulverizing the grass. Now, if you didn't know it, you can still mow your yard with the blade in the wrong direction, but it won't look as good when you're done. So the mower's been laying on its side for a couple of minutes, which means all of the dirty oil should be drained out of it by now. Now, looking at what came out of the engine, it doesn't look that bad. It's more of a dark brown color than pitch black. Now, if the engine oil was very dark in color, I have been known to do an engine flush just to get the very last bit of that dirty oil out of the engine. Now, this one was not that bad though, so I'm not going to do that today, but instead we'll start to fill it back up. Also, try your best to not overfill the engine with oil, and if you do go over like I did on this one, just make sure it's not by much. You're welcome to try and remove some of the extra oil if you want to, but I will let you know that it can be quite the headache to do that. So in the last video, I put some thin lubricant on these cables to get them to work better, but I'm going to do it yet again. And that's because I really don't think you can ever overdo it when lubricating the cables. Now, I did get a great question about what kind of lubricant I like to use, and to be honest, I try not to show you what I use, and that's done on purpose. Now, the reason why is pretty simple. You can use whatever kind or brand that you want, but the best kind is the one you already have at your house. You don't have to go out of your way to get what I'm using, but if you're curious as to the stuff I do use, I'll give you a clue. It's the cheapest stuff you can find on the shelf. The last item we need to take care of is of course the battery for the starting system. For those that have seen my past videos will know exactly what I'm about to do. Now before we install the battery, we need to do a bit of maintenance, and that's because when we took out the original battery from the box, one of the connectors broke off the wire. And to fix it, I'm going to strip back the insulation and then crimp on a new connector. Of course there were a couple of different ways I could have gone to fix it, but this made the most sense at the time. Now this connector is used to charge the battery, but the problem is that of all the parts that were in the bucket that came with this mower, the charger was missing. That means we need to not only replace the battery, but also the charger as well, which is really going to cut into the profits or make us raise the asking price when we go to sell it. So yes, I could obviously order a universal sealed lead acid battery and the charger for only 34 bucks, but even that sounds a bit much to me. So instead of going that route, I decided to buy a battery and a charger for a power tool. And the best part is not only the price, but also the warranty that comes with it. So this is the one that I like to use, and yes, I'm going to go with an 18-volt lithium instead of lead acid because why not? Now if you really want to save $5, you can opt for the 12-volt version of this battery, but when you use it, you're going to understand why I chose the 18-volt instead. So here's the charger, and it's a very basic power supply with a barrel connector on it. Now maybe if I get some extra time, I might come up with the parts list to make it compatible with the original charge port. But as of right now, you have to open the battery box and put the barrel connector in the battery directly to charge it. Now this battery is extremely affordable, which in electronic terms means it doesn't have a large capacity. But it really doesn't need to because of what we're asking it to do, which is 1 to 2 starts 2 to 3 times a month in the mowing season. And with 18 volts and 1.3 amp hours, you should only have to charge it once or twice during the mowing season. Now to make the connections to the terminals on the battery, we'll have to use some jumpers, and looking back, I should have used different connectors, but these will work for right now. Now the reason I want to use these jumpers is because I want the next person to be able to switch back to a lead acid battery if they feel like it. At least that's what I'm thinking. Hopefully the next person who will look at it will say, why didn't they just use a regular battery and then disconnect what I put in there without the need to switch out the connectors? Now you might be thinking that I'm being a real penny pincher trying to save 14 bucks going this route versus the way it should be, and to be honest, you would be correct. Now if the difference was say only 5 bucks, then of course I'd choose to go back to stock, but remember I have to pass on the cost to the buyer as well. And if I told them, hey, do you mind if I include an extra $14 to the price because I did it the right way, I think they would agree to go the other way. And of course this mower didn't come with a key either, but using a small flathead screwdriver works well too. All you need to do is give it a quarter turn, and when it starts, turn it back just like a car from 30 years ago. You just have to make sure that the head of the screwdriver isn't too big like the one on the left, otherwise it'll interfere with how it works. So just for your information, there is a built-in safety switch for the electric start, so the key only works when the brake handle is down. What that means is if you turn the key without the brake disengaged, the starter will not work. I also got a great question asking about how much lubricant to apply to the wheels, and even though adding a lot to them will make a huge mess, the more you apply, the better it'll work. Now just to show you what I'm talking about, in the last video we got a reading of 1.4 kilograms. This time, however, I applied even more lube to the wheels, and as you can see, the reading is even better than before. But I wouldn't apply too much lube to the wheels. Instead, I would apply it more often to get a consistent result. Now, I don't know how that could be any easier. I'm not sure why the key starts didn't become more popular. Now, the only reason I could come up with was because they were about 10 to 15% more expensive, and for most, they didn't feel like it was something they needed. Now, I don't want to say anything bad, but using a key start mower is not just meant for the elderly. Now you could have a shoulder or elbow problem and pulling on a rope isn't going to help out. But having a mower with an electric starter still allows you to take care of your yard without having someone else do it for you. Of course, if you throw a battery into a lawnmower, you now have to not only take care of a mower, but a battery as well. And that's the other reason why I think a lot of consumers didn't want to deal with electric starters on their mowers. It was just something else to take care of or fail in the future. So my question is, would you ever consider owning a mower with a battery and starter on it? Now my answer is yes. I view it purely as an item of convenience and I wouldn't mind having one at all. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.